majors were in a senior seminar class, and so we were assigned a capstone, and we chose to hit the problem of Sac State students and their nutrition knowledge. And I feel like as student athletes, sometimes your nutritional needs cannot be met just due to time and other factors, just being a college student. So we thought this would be a good way to give you guys a nutrition lesson, kind of build some nutrition knowledge, and learn some stuff you can apply in their everyday life.
At any point, if you all have questions, just let us know. You can stop at any time and talk about it.
Yeah, but I'm Andrea, by the way. I see some familiar faces, but yeah.
I'm Sebastian.
And I'm Gloria. Alright, so this is our agenda and goals. We started off with the pre-survey. I hope everybody had a chance to do that. We're going to go over a nutrition overview, which is going to include macro and micronutrients as well as hydration, how to apply this knowledge, and resources you can get after this. The goals of our lesson is to provide knowledge on how you can make a well-balanced meal, clarify nutritional requirements and macronutrients, and optimal consumption time. Teach ways on how to assess hydration levels, provide insight on the pros and cons of some sports supplements, and share resources offered here at Sac State.
Alright, so a nutrition overview. So these are macronutrients. You have protein, fat, carbs. This might sound familiar to you. So these numbers right here are the recommendations, but they are used as guides. So there is no absolute amount you necessarily need. Every individual is different. So that being said, I'll go ahead and talk about proteins. So proteins are usually needed, are usually met by athletes just based off of what you eat every day. Some needs are different just based off of your muscular composition goals. So if you just started training, like it's the beginning of season, usually we say 1 gram per kilogram, so your weight divided by 2.2 is recommended. If you're wanting to build some muscle, we say around 2 kilograms. And if you want to just maintain your body composition, 1.5 kilograms. Grams per kilogram is probably good for you. But like I said again, these are just recommendations. And for fat, the reason why fat can be important is once you're running out of like carbs as energy levels, you then go to fat as your main source of energy. And so the recommended dietary guidelines for carbs is 20 to 35% of your daily intake. So that's about 0.5 to 1.5 grams per kilogram. And that is met through a daily basis. And for carbohydrates, that is your main source of energy. So it is different per athlete. So you guys being volleyball players, the recommendation is around 5 to 7 grams for you guys during games and practices. But this can also differ just based off of if you like work out at home, just kind of the intensity of your play time. And some nutrition content, sometimes when you're trying to choose what carb you want to eat, sometimes you have to dismiss like the nutritional content of it, just because sometimes if you're like playing back-to-back games, you need energy quick. So something like a Rice Krispie treat or something with simple sugars might be beneficial to you. But more complex carbs, so like fruits or something that might take like a little bit more time to digest and has higher glycemic levels, that might be better for you just to keep your endurance. And you might not have to take that right away. You can like eat it within 2 hours of your workout and still have enough energy throughout your practice and game.
Any questions there? It's kind of a lot.
I know.
No? Really great. Okay, awesome. Alright, so real quickly, we kind of just go over like the basics of like how to make a balanced meal, because there's a lot of things you can do. But if you're going to do it quickly, the first thing, right, we said carbohydrates is the preferred source of energy. You start with your carbohydrates, prioritize them, and then after that, fill it in with protein. And what space you do have left, you can fit in the fats and like your fun foods, the things that you enjoy more. And it's also important to know that also depends on the type of training you have that day or the event. You know, if you have a tournament that weekend, you're obviously going to need to load up a lot more on carbohydrates. So this was pulled from the U.S. Olympics, their sports nutrition program. and this is what meals look like. It's kind of blurry, but basically what they did was they broke it down between the different types of days you're gonna have. So if you have an easy day, this is what it would look like, a moderate day, and a hard day of training. Some things to note is that on all 3 days, the amount of protein is generally gonna be the same, right? Because what's really changing is how much energy we need. So what they end up changing is the amount of carbs that we do. Vegetables and grains are both carbs, but what you'll see is that you increase in the amount of grains you have. So basically, you want like more calorie dense carbohydrates. And grains are generally what? We got like pastas, rices, beans, and potatoes. On the side, they do have like oils and fats on the side. Just generally you're gonna have that when you cook, it's more enjoyable stuff. And then yeah, so that's a big thing. If you wanna think about it simply, it's just as your days get harder, training gets harder, add in more grains, maybe cut down the vegetables, keep your proteins the same, and fats can be pretty low. Any questions there? Okay, so those are looking at meals. Getting a little more into it, like we said, right, for pre-meals, they should usually be consumed two hours plus before if we want to avoid like digestive problems, but also it's individual. If you can eat an hour before and you like it that way, then do it, that works for you. We say focus on carbs with some protein. Fat is okay, but try not to go high fat, because when you eat too much fat, it's gonna affect some of the carbohydrates that you can use as energy. When we're looking at right before a game of practice, which is like 15 plus within that like hour to 15 minutes, we wanna start focusing more on carbohydrates. And we put here simple carbohydrates. And so as Andrea was kind of talking about earlier, these are more of like your simple sugars, which is fine. You might see like athletes eat like even gummy worms or stuff like that, something sugary, because we really want to get that sugar in fast, so we're ready for the event. Something also to think about, so during training or the game, you want to be also ingesting carbs during this time. And so that's the reason why sports drinks, I mean like Gatorade, are the most popular ones, because they have sugar in them. Sports drinks, you can also do bars of food if you can tolerate it, or like you'll see the sports gels. Those are also other options. What else on that? So yeah, even talking about the sports drinks, you'll sometimes see like there's Gatorade, and then there's Gatorade Light, where there's no carbohydrates in there. So that's also a thing where, honestly, you're better off with the Gatorade more often than not, because that's versus Gatorade Light, because there's no calories in there. There's no energy in there, so it's not gonna really help you, other than the electrolytes that are in there. And then after training or game, you want to try and consume a meal within 2 hours of that time. Kind of similar to the pre-meals, you want to focus on carbs, get your protein in there too, but again, low fat. The big thing is that we're looking to get in both the carbohydrates. We want to get the carbohydrates in fast, so we're going to look for, again, simple sugars, simple carbohydrates in sooner. And even there, again, as a final point, as the event gets closer, focus on more carbs and like simpler carbs. Yeah.
So this is our hydration slide. So we did get a few questions about hydration and how to keep your hydration levels up. So the reason why hydrating is important is because your water intake actually affects your blood volume. And your blood volume is what gives you your oxygen, your energy, transport your nutrients. And so due to the role of increasing blood volume and regulating body temperature, and it also maintains just the water you retain in your body, it's very important to hydrate, at least before, during, and after the event. And so there are simple ways for you to assess if you are hydrated. This is more towards like boxing athletes and people who may meet like a weight class, but some of them will weigh themselves before the event and then weigh themselves after and see how much of their body weight was lost due to water mass. And then there's also thirst levels. So basically, you guys might have heard this before, but the minute you feel thirsty, you're actually dehydrated. And so that's another way you can kind of gauge your hydration level. And another one is just your urine color. If you switch to the next slide. So there's kind of this chart that can help you gauge whether or not you're hydrated, and obviously the lower you get towards the chart, you're severely dehydrated, so that's probably when you should kind of prioritize you getting some water, but this is a little good chart to know.
Okay, talking about like electrolytes, you know, they're tied to hydration. You know, so if we're gonna lose electrolytes during our events, and so that's gonna affect also our water levels and our hydration. Big thing is also I want to point about electrolytes. It's often thought, I put it's called EAMC, because I know there's a lot of miscommunication about it, but electrolytes are not shown to be linked with muscle cramps, so I know sometimes you feel like it is, but it's not going to affect it that way. Another thing to know is that electrolytes, they really only be replenished when exercise that lasts for more than 2 hours or for heavy sweaters. So if your practice isn't that long, or if the event's not that long, if the game's not that long, you might not have to worry about electrolytes. But if you are worried about it and you are like a heavier sweater, yeah, I guess, I don't know. You can replenish with like sports drinks. That's why the Gatorade comes in handy, because it has electrolytes. And then salty foods too are gonna have like that sodium in there for you, like pretzels.
So vitamins, some people had questions on whether or not they should take multivitamins, and that really depends on the individual and how much you eat and the variety you eat. So if you think you eat a lot of different types of fruits and vegetables, you might not have to take multivitamins. But a lot of vitamins that we do stress within athletes, especially volleyball players, or any athletes that require some sort of jumping and kind of a lot of tension within your bones, we do recommend vitamin D and calcium, just because it would aid with your bone density and kind of prevent injury and just kind of make your bones stronger. So if multivitamins are necessary to you, you might consider it, but if you eat a wide variety of foods, you might not have to.
Okay, so talking a bit about supplements. So the big thing that we want to start off with saying is that most supplements are not FDA approved, which means they're not researched well and they're not regulated super well. They're still very common. It's just kind of a word of caution that you might want to think about. Although one of the most researched ones is creatine, and obviously one of the most popular ones. And as volleyball players, you might benefit from it. We're not here also to say to take certain supplements, but if you are thinking about creatine, it's important to know that creatine is really useful for like explosive energy. And so if you're playing volleyball, if you got to jump a lot, it might be beneficial for you. We talk about electrolytes, also popular supplements. But like we said earlier, we say risk factors of like basically who needs it, and it's basically people who are going to have events that last more than 2 hours and are heavy sweaters. So for volleyball, if I'm not mistaken, games aren't 2 hours, but even then it has to be past 2 hours. So there might not be a need for electrolytes, although you can, of course, if you want, do that. Also looking at protein and protein powders. So it's very popular. There is no shown like benefit compared to natural like protein sources like lean meats, and there's no benefit when it comes to like protein synthesis or like muscle growth. But obviously protein powders, they are beneficial. They're cheap, they're fast, and they're quick. So that's also another thing to think about. And then multivitamins, like Andrea was saying, it has been shown to not improve exercise performance unless there are nutrient deficiencies. And that's not too common, but yeah.
Okay, now we're going to do an activity that's called this or that. I'm basically going to provide a scenario and ask you what food would be better for this situation. So you are about to leave to practice. Which snack should you grab on your way out? And we have a Rice Krispie versus a rice cake with some banana and peanut butter.
Feel free to discuss among yourselves.
Rice Krispies.
I
eat that already.
Yeah, I told you that during your game.
I got a box.
Well, I got a full of Rice Krispies right now. That's what you.
Okay, so
No, there's no way. I think they said Rice Krispies to you earlier. How's that higher glycemic index?
Alright, who says this? Yeah, who says that? No? Alright, cool.
So the better answer would be Rice Krispie, and the reason is if you are on your way to practice, meaning you don't have that much time, and the Rice Krispie is going to provide a source of energy that's going to be quickly broken down and easier for your body to use in that time.
But like also, the other one, the rice cake with the banana and peanut butter, not a bad snack either. You might just want to do it like a little earlier. It might be better that way too. Like if you have an hour before and you want something quick and easy, that'd be a great choice too.
Okay, so this is our next scenario. You have 2 hours until you have to be at your volleyball tournament. Which snack would be most beneficial for endurance?
Hear me, I guess. Fruit snacks though. That's a fruit, but like.
You got 2 hours.
You can eat the fruit 2 hours before, but that was fast later.
Yeah, you got both, yeah.
We'll go into
Alright, which one? This?
Yeah.
Anyone think that? No?
I mean, I'd eat it along with it, maybe.
Why do y'all think this?
It's 2 hours before.
More complex sugars.
Okay.
More complex
Yeah.
sugars.
So, they're not bad either of them, but yeah, this one would probably be better.
So now we have, say you're about to play 2 games back to back and need something to aid your hydration levels and energy during your games. Which should you drink?
We're going with the
Wait,
Gatorade.
coconut water
tastes
disgusting. Coconuts are like a Hawaiian drink, and that's
What is
like
that?
all
That's
the-
what volleyball has.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
I feel like that would be.
That is disgusting.
It's a bullshit.
I'm gonna drink the coconut water and then wash it down with Gatorade so I get
There
the
we
taste
go.
out of my
Go Gatorade.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Gatorade.
Yeah, you think Gatorade?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great too. Yeah, the big thing is, like between these, is the Gatorade is gonna have carbohydrates in there. We're doing events, we're gonna want that. Coconut water is gonna have electrolytes in it, but it's not gonna have any of the carbs in it.
Okay, so this one, say you just got back home from practice and wanted a recovery snack. Which one should you consume? And this is apples with peanut butter versus a protein bar.
I'm not gonna lie, if I got chocolate in the house, I'd
Yo, if I got peanut butter, I'll throw the protein bars.
I go.
Probably the apple.
I don't really like apples.
Like,
Apples and peanut butter is
You know, like apple.
It's not a chocolate bar. It's a protein bar. Oh, is it really? It's like a chocolate bar.
Yeah, I know what that was, right?
Oh, so no, it's still for chocolate.
No, that's a protein bar, that's a protein bar.
Oh, it's a protein bar.
He just wants to be a chocolate bar.
Alright, this, yeah, who thinks? Are we split? What about that one?
Yeah.
Woo! Alright, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, neither of them were bad, but again, the big thing is that has both the protein and we kind of see there's like simpler sugars and it's gonna hit us faster. So after we want to get the carbohydrates in fast. This is great too. It's a vegetable or a fruit, but yeah.
Yeah, and there is no right or wrong answer. It's just the protein bar will probably hit your bloodstream quicker and will help with recovery. We have one more. You just finished a tournament. On your way out, you see a concession stand that is offering chocolate milk or a green smoothie. Which one is a better recovery drink?
Chocolate.
Isn't it like brothers drink chocolate milk?
Yes.
Yeah, we gotta get the
Yeah, milk cats.
Yes.
Even even if
Chocolate
I
milk
cannot
final
ever
answer.
force myself.
Chocolate milk final answer?
Yes.
Yeah, chocolate milk. Not bad. You know, vegetable is great, of course, but this one's gonna have both the sugar from the milk and it's milk too, so it also has protein in it. That's kind of the reasoning why runners will take it.
Do you guys have any questions?
Anything?
You guys explained it so well, so clearly now.
How do you know? Damn, good. Hey, good. Hey, how do you know if you're overhydrated?
Overhydrated?
Yeah.
Honestly, if you.
Yeah, so there's actually a condition for that, or what athletes may experience called hyponemia. And basically it's if you don't have like enough sodium, like we talked about, or electrolytes in your body, basically your blood is diluted by the water, by drinking too much water, so you can experience a lot of fatigue. You can also tell by if your urination's like clear. But usually you kind of have some onset symptoms such as like fatigue. You might see like runners like towards the end of like marathon runners towards the end of their marathon. Not only are they like struggling to finish because they're out of like energy, but some of them are overhydrated because they don't have electrolytes in their system. So
Yeah, I would say just do what you feel is comfortable.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is hard to go overboard on water, but yeah. And then we didn't put here too, so, yeah, question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so you guys kind of mentioned how, electrolytes weren't tied with like getting cramps and stuff. So what would you guys recommend for us to like intake if we were getting a cramp, like let's say out of tournament? Like what should we be consuming?
Consuming with cramps, that's a good question. That,
I have heard, and take this with a grain of salt because this is from marathon runners who are endurance athletes, that a lot of them will take like mustard packets. And then like when you have a muscle cramp, sometimes like higher levels of sodium and potassium can help because that activates like your muscle twitches. But I'm not confident on the effectiveness on it. But that is what I've heard from past athletes.
any other questions, by the way?
Can you overeat on protein?
Can you overeat on protein?
It'll hurt your liver or something, right? Or your kidneys, something.
If you start eating enough protein, it just metabolizes the fat.
That's true, that's the big thing too, so. It's not often that you really go over. There is some liver damage, but it's very, very rare. But the big thing is especially, even like all athletes, especially if you need to lifting weights, you still need the carbohydrates, you still need the energy. So that's the big thing is, you might be getting more protein, but you're not able to work as hard if you don't have the energy to use it.
And a lot of Americans in general, regardless of athletes or not, meet their protein requirements just based off what they eat every day.
Any other questions about nutrition, y'all got?
How about like fast food before the game, like 2 hours before the race? No.
Probably more.
Chick-fil-A.
Definitely got some carbs.
Got some carbs in there.
Wait, yeah, so there was, I saw on the like, the plate slide, like, I swear it said like, the day of the match, you eat like grains or something and like pasta or something. Is
Yeah.
that you should?
Yeah.
I always thought you shouldn't because it like slows you down or something.
No, so like we said, when you get closer to the event, you wanna, so grains and all that, they're all carbohydrates. But the big thing is that they take a little bit longer to process. So we always say at least, like, as you get close to the events, switch off. But when it's like 2 hours before, yeah, like even on these harder days, they're focusing on their grains. So that's the big thing, yeah. Don't stay away from your carbs, especially like the pastas, potatoes, rices. That's what you wanna do the most of. Any other questions? Alright, coming towards the end, we did want to give some resources on campus. So first one is like ASI Food Pantry. How many of y'all use that by chance? Yeah? Do y'all, rest of you, do you know where it's located?
In the well?
No.
No.
Yeah, also that too.
Oh.
It's by the Union on the outside where they just put the new murals. That's where the ASI food pantry is. You can go there once a week and you can get the free groceries there. They have sometimes good stuff, sometimes not so great stuff, but they honestly more often not have good stuff. Like 2 weeks ago, they just had literally full jars of protein and you can just grab one per week. So that was
Free?
nice. Yeah, for free. All that's free.
You just gotta bring your card.
You gotta bring your one card. They have a tablet there for you to sign up the first time. It takes like 5 minutes. But yeah, like the protein jars, like looking it up, is like $50. Save there. This week they actually had the chocolate milk too. So like last night.
Like what days did you say?
What was that?
What days did you say?
Monday through Friday, but their hours are like different each day. It's like 12 to 4 on certain days, 10 to 12 on certain days. But yeah. Other thing is too, they do grocery pop-ups. Those are the things that are like in the center of the quad. They do groceries there too. It's supposed to be every other Monday, but like this whole past month they didn't even do it. But especially like in the springtime, it'll be every other Monday. There is one this Monday too. Yes, yeah. And that is from like 10 to 12 as well. 10 to 1. Next resource, and the big one too, is we do have 2 registered dietitians on campus. So especially if you have any other questions or like you want to get a little more dialed in on nutrition, you can go ahead and schedule appointments with them. You would do that through your student patient portal, or if you see your athletic trainer, they can give you a referral that way. And then also, sometimes it can be a little pain that way too, but there's also peer nutrition visits. So at the Well, Student Health and Counseling, they have nutrition majors. I'm one of them, and we do one-on-one nutrition visits as well. And yeah, it's a great service. And there's availabilities throughout the day at different times. And lastly, also at the Well, there is a kitchen, and that's where they do cooking demos. So if you want to learn more about like how to cook, they do a lot of vegetables. They do proteins too, like if you want to learn how to cook chicken and stuff like that. They do have those cooking demos. And all of these actually, dietitian, the peer nutrition visits, and the cooking demos, they'll all be through your student patient portal. But yeah. Or you can just walk into the Student Health and Counseling and just ask for those services. Any questions on any of that? Cool.
Okay, so our take-home message is that there is no good or bad foods. Timing is really important when it comes to choosing your food. Every individual is different, and to seek advice from health professionals when wanting to make any dietary changes, and to use the resources around us, like the Well, the ASI Food Pantry, the registered dietitians, as well as the peer nutrition visits.
Thank you guys.